Rain kissed the pavement as Jessica Lange stepped off the train platform, the capital city's skyline a gleaming forest of power, wealth, and secrets. A gust of wind tugged at her coat as if reminding her, "You don't belong here." She tightened her grip on her suitcase, her fingers pale with cold and nerves. Her phone buzzed. Grandpa Joseph. "He'll be waiting at the east exit." "Don't make him wait." "First impressions matter, Jessie." Jessica's heart thudded. Not because she was meeting the man she was supposed to marry, but because it wasn't the man she thought she'd marry. And it wasn't a meeting, it was a wedding. 3 weeks ago, she had been just a quiet, art-loving girl from a traditional family in the South, finishing her degree and dreaming of an illustration career. Then her grandfather had dropped the bomb. "You're going to marry Maxwell Sheng." Maxwell, her childhood friend, the only boy she'd ever had a crush on. Handsome. Gentle. Kind. They had exchanged letters when they were kids. He used to call her Starfish because she clung to the sand and refused to swim. Jessica had laughed through her tears. Until she got to the capital and realized. It wasn't Maxwell at all. It was his uncle. A black Bentley waited at the curb, sleek and still like a predator in the rain. The window rolled down. "Get in," a voice said. Low. Cool. Smooth like obsidian. She froze. He didn't step out. Didn't offer to help her with her bag. He only looked at her with eyes like midnight storms. Ethan Sheng. 32. Billionaire. CEO of the Sheng Group. Her future husband. She stepped inside the car like she was stepping into the mouth of fate. The door clicked shut. And the silence was suffocating. "You're late," he said. Jessica swallowed. "Only by 2 minutes." 2 minutes, he repeated, glancing at his Rolex. "Is $250,000 in lost time." She stared at him. Was that a joke? It didn't sound like one. "I apologize," she said quietly. He didn't respond. Just leaned back in his seat and pressed a button. The tinted divider rolled up between them and the driver. She had imagined a reunion with Maxwell. She had imagined flowers, nervous laughter, maybe a bouquet. But now, every dream she had ever dared to cradle felt like it was being quietly buried. "Why me?" she whispered. Ethan's gaze turned to her again. "Because Grandpa Joseph wants this alliance. And your family has no leverage to say no." There was no tenderness in his words. Just ice. Power. Calculated indifference. The drive to the Sheng estate was silent. The mansion appeared like a shadowed palace behind wrought iron gates. Marble pillars. Guard towers. Ivy-cloaked walls. Jessica clutched her suitcase tighter. As she stepped out of the car, a woman in a tailored black dress appeared on the steps. Elegant. Older. Cold. "You must be Jessica," the woman said. Jessica nodded. "I'm Mrs. Lorraine, Ethan's housekeeper." "Follow me. We'll have you settled before the legal ceremony this evening." "Ceremony?" Jessica blinked. "I thought, we were just meeting today." "You thought wrong," Lorraine replied. "Mr. Sheng does not waste time." Inside the mansion, she felt small. The ceilings were cathedral high. The halls echoed. Everything was monochrome and emotionless, just like Ethan. Jessica found herself seated alone in a massive dining room an hour later, untouched tea in front of her, her nerves unraveling. This is not a home, she thought. This is a kingdom. And I'm just a pawn. The doors opened again. Ethan entered. He wasn't wearing a suit anymore. Just a dark dress shirt. Sleeves rolled to the elbow. His presence still felt like lightning caught in human form. He sat across from her and stared. "Do you want to back out?" The question cut her. Would it matter if I did? She asked. A beat. No. And somehow, that made her sit straighter. Then no, she said softly. I won't back out. His gaze flickered, just for a second. Approval? Surprise? She couldn't tell. I'll have the lawyer prepare the documents, he said. The engagement party is tomorrow. And your things will be moved into the East Wing. He stood to leave. Ethan, she said, surprising herself. He paused. If you didn't want to marry me, why didn't you just say no? He turned to her fully now. For the first time, she saw something behind the storm in his eyes. Regret? Or was it something deeper? I said yes, he said, because you reminded me of someone I once failed to protect. Then he was gone. And Jessica was left with 1,000 new questions. The door clicked shut behind her. Jessica stood in the middle of the East Wing bedroom, her new room. The air was scented faintly with lavender, but it didn't feel calming. It felt sterile. The bed was massive, its white linens neatly tucked like a hotel suite. A vanity sat against the wall, untouched. Her suitcase had been unpacked, her clothes already folded into drawers. Everything had been done for her, with clinical efficiency. Like a guest. Not a wife. She moved toward the window and parted the heavy curtains. Beyond the glass, the night sprawled over Abuja, soft lights shimmering like distant dreams. Then, a soft knock. She turned. The door opened slowly, revealing Ethan. Still in his dress shirt. Sleeves rolled. Tie gone. For a moment, he didn't speak. He just looked at her. Not with affection. Not even curiosity. It was a scan. A calculation. I'll be sleeping in the West Wing, he said flatly. She blinked. Oh. Yes. Okay. An awkward silence stretched. Ethan glanced around the room. If you need anything, Lorraine will be down the hall. She nodded, trying to hide the sting. This was supposed to be her wedding night. He turned to leave. Ethan, she said suddenly. Her voice cracked. Why do you hate this so much? He stopped. Turned back, expression unreadable. I don't hate it, he said quietly. I just don't believe in pretending. And with that, he was gone. Jessica lay awake for hours, the moon casting long shadows on the wall. She stared at the ceiling, her chest tight. Was she just a tool? A name on a contract? Or did she matter, at all? She got up, barefoot on the cold marble floor, and tiptoed toward the hallway. Maybe she could find some tea. But when she opened the door, he was there. Ethan. Standing just outside, as if he'd been reaching for the knob. His hand froze midair. They both stared. Neither moved. Couldn't sleep, she asked. He nodded once. Too quiet. A beat. She looked down. Me too. His hand dropped. You shouldn't walk around barefoot, he said, voice low. The floor's cold. He stepped aside, but didn't walk away. Their eyes met again. It was the first time the silence between them didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a door. The next morning, Jessica was awakened by Lorraine. Your presence is requested in the dining room, she said stiffly. Jessica sat up, still wearing her silk robe. Is everything all right? Lorraine's lips twitched. Mr. Sheng's mother has arrived. Jessica's heart stopped. The matriarch. In the dining room, a regal older woman in gold sat like a queen. Beside her, Ethan stood tall and silent. When Jessica walked in, the woman's eyes scanned her like a ledger. So. You're the girl Joseph sent. Jessica bowed politely. Yes, ma'am. Pretty. Quiet. Let's hope you're not stupid. Jessica kept her face still. Mother, Ethan warned gently. Oh hush. I have every right to test her. The older woman's voice was sharp, but behind it, there was something else, protectiveness. Suspicion. Jessica met her gaze. I'm not stupid. And I won't be anyone's puppet. Ethan's mother raised an eyebrow. Then, smiled. Just a little. Later that evening, Jessica stepped out onto the mansion's balcony. The air was cool. The city below glittered like a galaxy. Ethan appeared silently beside her, his voice soft. You stood up to my mother. I wasn't trying to impress her, she said. I know. That's why she liked it. Jessica laughed once, quiet and breathless. They stood there for a while, saying nothing. And then, for just a second, their fingers brushed on the railing. Neither pulled away. And neither spoke of it. Jessica stood at the foot of the grand staircase in the mansion, still holding the crisp, cream-colored envelope. Gold script danced across the front. Shin Group Annual Charity Gala. Mandarin Hills Hotel, Abuja. Black tie. Mandatory attendance. She looked up as Ethan descended the stairs in a dark three-piece suit, his jacket perfectly fitted, his eyes unreadable as always. You'll need to be ready by 7, he said, stopping beside her. Jessica lifted the invitation. Do I really have to go? You're my wife. People expect to meet you. Wife for show, she said, her voice softer than she meant it. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Just walked away. 2 hours later, Jessica stood in front of the full-length mirror, stunned by her reflection. Her gown shimmered in gold, fitted at the waist, flowing like liquid light. Her natural curls had been pinned into an elegant updo. She didn't look like herself. She looked like the wife of a billionaire. A soft knock. When she opened the door, Ethan stood there. For the first time, his eyes paused on her. You clean up well, he said, voice quiet. Jessica raised a brow. Is that a compliment? It's a fact. Flashes exploded as the luxury car pulled to a stop outside the Mandarin Hills Hotel. Ethan stepped out first, unbothered by the attention. He turned and held out his hand. Jessica hesitated, then took it. They walked the red carpet together, a picture of elegance and control, until someone called her name. Jessica. She froze. It was Logan. In a steel gray suit, slick smile, and a face full of the past. Ethan's hand tightened around hers. Logan's eyes scanned her, then landed on Ethan. Didn't expect to see you here, together. Jessica spoke first. You shouldn't be here. It's a public gala, Logan said. I represent clients too. Ethan's voice cut through the tension. Then I suggest you stay with your clients. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers glittered. Champagne flowed. Jessica's heart raced as Ethan escorted her from one circle of guests to another. But Logan wasn't done. He found her by the bar. Alone for only a moment. Jess, he said. You can't really be happy in this arrangement. Jessica turned to face him. You don't get to ask that. You deserve better than him. And you think you are better, a voice said behind them. Ethan. He stepped forward, gaze locked on Logan. She's not here for you to manipulate. Walk away. Logan scoffed. You think money makes you untouchable? No, Ethan replied, deadly calm. But power does. Jessica placed a hand on Ethan's arm, surprised by the fury under his quiet surface. Let's go, she said. Ethan nodded, and they left the ballroom, flashes still bursting behind them. Silence filled the car. Jessica stared out the window. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She turned. Why? He looked at her now, really looked. Because he hurt you. And I don't allow that under my roof. You mean your reputation? No, he said softly. I mean you. The air between them changed, just slightly. Jessica looked down at her hands. Her wedding band felt heavier. Maybe this marriage was more than a contract. Or maybe, it could become one. Jessica woke with a dull ache in her chest, the events of the gala swirling through her mind like smoke. Logan's face. Ethan's voice. That moment in the car. I don't allow people to hurt you. Not under my roof. She'd wanted to believe it was about more than power or image. But when she stepped into the dining room the next morning, Ethan was already dressed, reading the news like nothing had happened. Morning, she said, hesitating. He looked up briefly. Good morning. That was it. Back to silence. Back to business. Later that day, Jessica took a rare solo trip to the bookstore in the city. She needed air. Space. Something normal. She wandered into a cozy shop near Maitama and lost herself in sketchbooks and graphic novels. That's when she heard her name. Jessica. She turned, and there was Dr. Aneo, her late brother's old friend. A gentle man with kind eyes. Dr. An, she breathed. He hugged her, warm and real. I heard about your marriage. I didn't believe it until I saw the tabloids. Jessica gave a half-laugh. I barely believe it myself. They sat at a small cafe table. You know, he said, your brother once told me Ethan Shing wasn't as heartless as he pretended. She looked up. Maybe he's just waiting for someone to see it. When Jessica returned home, something was waiting on her vanity. A sketch pad. The exact brand she'd looked at that morning. No note. No signature. But she knew. Later, she found Ethan in the study, scrolling through a briefing on his tablet. You didn't have to buy this, she said, holding up the pad. He didn't look up. I didn't. She blinked. You saw me, she said. At the bookstore? He paused. I had a meeting nearby. Right. Her voice was low. So it's a coincidence. He finally met her gaze. No. It's not. That night, she tried to break the routine. Cooked dinner herself. Small dishes. Something familiar, Nigerian comfort food. She waited at the table. And waited. Finally, Lorraine entered. Mr. Shing sends his apologies. There's a late meeting. Jessica sat alone, untouched food on the table, fingers tightening around her fork. You said you don't let people hurt me. But you're doing it now. The next morning, she didn't show up to breakfast. Didn't answer her phone. Ethan found her outside, in the garden, barefoot in the grass, sketching furiously in the new book. He stood silently for a moment. You weren't at breakfast, he said. She didn't look up. Neither were you, yesterday. A beat of silence. You're shutting me out, Ethan. But you don't get to play hero one night, then vanish the next. He sat down beside her, slowly. You're right, he said. I don't know how to do this. Be normal. Be married. I never planned for any of this. Jessica looked at him. I didn't either. But I'm here. He looked at her sketch pad. And for the first time, his hand reached for hers, not to take, but to touch. I'll try, he said. And for the first time, she believed him. The days that followed were quiet, but not empty. Jessica noticed the changes, small and subtle. Ethan didn't disappear into the West Wing as often. He lingered in doorways. He listened more when she spoke. And he looked at her not just through her. One evening, heavy clouds rolled over Abuja. Rain whispered against the windows. Jessica stood by the glass doors of the sunroom, sketching the garden where they'd last talked. Ethan approached behind her, silent. "Storm's coming," she said without turning. "Not the first," he murmured. She glanced back. He wasn't talking about the weather. They were halfway through dinner, real dinner, together at the same table for once, when Lorraine entered. "There's someone at the gate. A woman. She says she knows you." Jessica stiffened. Ethan's brow furrowed. "What woman?" Lorraine hesitated. "She said her name is Lily's sister." Silence. Thick. Instant. Jessica felt the chill. Ethan slowly pushed his chair back. "I'll handle it." She stood too. "No. If she's connected to Lily, I should be there." His jaw flexed, but he nodded. Outside, under the stormy sky, a woman stood with an umbrella and grief written across her face. She looked younger than Jessica expected. Beautiful. Wounded. "You're her," the woman said softly. "The girl he married." Jessica nodded. "I'm Rena," the woman said. "Lily's younger sister. I just wanted to know if Ethan is happy. If she would have wanted this." Jessica's throat tightened. "We're not, what you think." Rena looked past her. Ethan stood in the doorway, silent and unreadable. "She always said he'd never let himself love again," Rena whispered. "If you've changed that, don't run from it." Then she left. Later that night, Jessica stood outside Ethan's study, hesitant. She knocked. "Come in." He looked up, exhausted. "She looks like Lily," he said. Jessica nodded. "But she's not her." "I know." A pause. "I thought if I kept my distance," he continued, "I could control it. Us. You. But I don't want to anymore." Jessica stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to forget her," she whispered. "Just, don't shut me out because of her." Ethan stood. Moved toward her. And then, finally, his hand cupped her face. Gently. Carefully. Real. She leaned into his palm. Closed her eyes. "Jessica," he murmured, "I want to start again. For real." The rain hit harder outside as they stood there, frozen in something fragile and sacred. No vows. No kisses. Just a touch. But it was enough to shatter everything that once stood between them. In the silence, in the storm, Jessica finally felt it. She wasn't alone anymore. Not in the house. Not in the marriage. Not in his heart. Jessica awoke to the soft scent of rain still lingering in the air. Ethan wasn't beside her. She wasn't sure when he'd left, or if he'd even slept at all. But the warmth on her cheek from his touch the night before still lingered like a memory burned into her skin. She slipped on a robe and padded toward the kitchen. To her surprise, he was there. Shirt sleeves rolled, coffee steaming in a cup. "Morning," he said, glancing at her over the rim. She smiled, soft and uncertain. "Morning." There was a silence between them. But for once, it didn't feel like a wall. She nearly dropped her tea. On the front page of the Capital Watch. Jessica. Sheng and the Billionaire heir, a real marriage or strategic move? Beneath the headline, a photo of them from the gala, her hand on his arm, his jaw tight, Logan visible in the background. "Where did they even get this?" she muttered. Ethan stepped behind her, scanning the paper. "I'll have legal deal with it." "That's not the point," she said. "I'm not used to being watched like this. Judged. You get used to it." She looked at him. "That's what I'm afraid of." Later that day, Jessica's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message: "You looked beautiful that night. He doesn't deserve you. Her heart stopped. Logan. She didn't reply. But the unease crawled up her spine like cold rain. And it didn't help that later, when she met Ethan outside the Shin Group offices for a charity luncheon, Logan was there, leaning against his car like a bad memory in perfect tailoring. Jessica, he called. Can we talk? Ethan stepped beside her instantly, his voice low. Walk away. Don't speak for her, Logan snapped. Jessica stepped forward. Logan, this isn't the time. He looked at her, hurt, angry. So you're playing the perfect wife now? She didn't answer. But Ethan did. Touch her again, verbally or otherwise, and you'll regret it. That night, Jessica and Ethan stood in the hallway, tension snapping between them. You think threatening him solves anything? She asked, pacing. He disrespected you. You can't fight every shadow that haunts me, Ethan. I'll fight every damn one if it means you feel safe. She stopped, tears welling. I don't want to just feel safe. I want to feel seen. His jaw tensed, the weight of his past pressing on the moment. I'm trying, he said quietly. I know, she whispered. But I need more than trying. Ethan found her that night in the guest wing. She had moved there, temporarily, she told herself. Just for space. But when he knocked, she didn't answer. He came in anyway. I'm not good at this, he said, standing just inside the door. Jessica sat at the window, sketchpad in her lap. I know. He exhaled. But I don't want to lose what we're building. Even if I ruin it trying to protect it. She finally looked at him. His eyes were raw. Honest. You haven't ruined it, she said. But if we're going to survive this, we need to stop fighting ghosts, and start seeing each other. He crossed the room. And for the first time, she let him hold her, fully, quietly, as the city lights flickered behind them. It was Ethan who cooked this time. Jessica stood in the doorway of the kitchen, blinking sleepily, surprised by the scent of sautéed peppers and eggs. Ethan turned from the stove. Don't look so shocked. I thought you had meetings. I moved them. He served 2 plates without fanfare. Sit. She did. It wasn't fancy, just plantains, eggs, toast, but the quiet between them felt easy for once. Why today? She asked. He shrugged. You said you wanted to feel seen. Her fork paused mid-air. That wasn't just cooking. That was listening. Later that morning, they walked together along a quiet path through the mansion gardens. No staff. No cameras. No expectations. Just steps and silence. Jessica finally broke it. Do you still think this was a mistake? Ethan looked up. Do you? I used to. Now. I don't know what I think. He nodded, thoughtful. You've surprised me, she added. Is that good? It's terrifying, she said honestly. But maybe that's what real things feel like. He didn't answer. But he took her hand. And for once, she didn't let go. That night, Ethan stood on the balcony, phone to his ear. Yes, I know what it means, he said tightly. But I'm not pulling out. Pause. She deserves a choice. And I'm giving her one. He ended the call and turned. Jessica stood behind him. You were talking about me. He nodded. She stepped closer. About what? Ethan looked out over the city. My uncle wants to end the agreement. Dissolve the marriage. He doesn't think this, he gestured between them, is good for the family. Jessica felt her throat tighten. Are you going to? He met her eyes. No. They sat together on the rooftop terrace that night. No words. Just wine and quiet music floating from her phone. Jessica leaned back, her shoulder brushing his. "Tell me something no one else knows," she said suddenly. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't sleep through the night," he said. "Haven't in years." She turned to him, surprised. "Why?" "Because when I close my eyes, everything I try to control breaks loose." She didn't respond. Instead, she reached for his hand. His eyes found hers. And slowly, their faces leaned closer. But just before their lips met, her phone rang. "Logan." She pulled away. And everything froze. She didn't answer the call. She turned off the phone. And turned back to Ethan. His face was still, but his eyes searched hers. "I'm not choosing him," she said quietly. "But I need to know you're not just doing this because of obligation, or guilt." "I'm not," he said. "But I need to know you believe I can be something more than the man who broke things." She nodded. And finally, thunder. No background music. Just two people, finally facing forward, towards something like love. Jessica woke to golden light and the quiet rhythm of breath beside her. Ethan's arm was draped lightly across her waist. His body, usually so distant even when present, was now tangled with hers in the most natural way. She didn't move, just watched him sleep. It was the first time she'd seen him truly at peace. A fragile smile formed on her lips. Maybe they had turned a corner. Maybe this could be real. Later, while organizing the books in the East Wing study, Jessica found a box, tucked high behind a shelf. Dusty. Untouched. Inside, letters. Written in a woman's flowing script. Addressed to Ethan. Signed Lily. Jessica stared at them, her breath caught in her throat. There were dozens. Some unopened. Some tear-stained. One, dated a week before their wedding. She didn't read them all. She couldn't. But the words in the one she did echoed sharply. "You promised me you'd never let her into your heart." That night, Jessica sat across from Ethan in the sitting room. The box was between them. His eyes darkened the moment he saw it. "Where did you get that?" "Behind the shelves." "Did you think I wouldn't find them?" "They're nothing," he said, too fast. "They're her, Ethan." He didn't speak. Jessica's voice shook. "You said you wanted to start again. That you were choosing me. But you kept this." "I didn't read them," he said. "I couldn't. Because I knew if I did, I'd never stop mourning her." Jessica whispered, "Are you still in love with her?" He didn't answer. That was the answer. The next few days felt like slow drowning. Ethan tried. Showed up for breakfast, touched her shoulder in the hallway, offered half-smiles. But she saw it now. He was trying to hold two things at once, the memory of a woman he lost, and the reality of a woman he had. And somewhere in between, she was shrinking. Logan messaged again. "Just checking on you. I still care. Even if he never will." She didn't reply. But she didn't delete it either. One night, she stood at the front door with her coat on. A driver waited outside. She wasn't sure where she was going. Just that she needed air. Space. Before she could step out, Ethan appeared in the hallway. "Are you leaving me?" he asked quietly. Jessica looked at him, tears burning. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I'm just choosing myself for once." And then, softer, "If you want me, really want us, meet me there." She handed him a card. No words. Just a time. A location. Then she stepped into the night. Jessica had barely spoken a word the entire drive. The car wove through Abuja's outer edges, up winding roads flanked by quiet forest until they reached the old house on Bwari Hill. It was where her brother used to come to write. The house that had been left in her name, forgotten by most, but never by her. She opened the doors, exhaled deeply. No staff. No cameras. No expectations. Just her. And maybe, she thought, a decision. Back at the mansion, Ethan sat in his study, but didn't work. Couldn't. The card Jessica had left sat untouched on the desk. A time. A place. He ran his hands through his hair. His chest felt hollow. He had spent years controlling outcomes. Building walls. Burying the truth. But she wasn't asking him to control anything now. She was asking him to show up. And he didn't know if he deserved her. But he knew he wanted her. Jessica sat on the stone steps of the Boiry house, sketchbook balanced on her knees. She kept glancing down the drive. 1 minute passed. Then 5. Then 15. She didn't cry. She didn't call. She just kept drawing. Every time the wind rustled through the trees, she told herself, it's probably just the breeze. Until it wasn't. The sound of tires on gravel. A car door closing. Then footsteps. Jessica didn't look up. Not yet. Jessica. His voice was rough, like it had walked miles to reach her. She looked up. He was there. He looked tired. A little afraid. But present. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure I'd know how, he answered. And then he did what she had waited for, not with his mouth, but with his presence. He sat beside her. Shoulder to shoulder. Quiet. Real. They sat under the wide Nigerian sky, wind brushing through the acacia trees. Ethan broke the silence. I loved her. But I don't want to live in her shadow anymore. Jessica closed her sketchbook. I'm not asking you to forget her. I'm asking you to choose me, without guilt, without hesitation. He turned to her. I'm trying. I don't need perfect, she said. Just present. He nodded. And then, wordlessly, he laced his fingers through hers. It wasn't a vow. It wasn't a proposal. But it was enough, for now. The next morning, there was no dramatic sunrise, no spoken vows. Just the sound of birds and the scent of ground coffee drifting from the kitchen of the old Boiry house. Jessica stood barefoot on the back patio, wrapped in a shawl, watching the trees sway. Ethan appeared behind her with 2 mugs. No tie. No armor. I wasn't sure how you take it, he said. She took the mug without a smile, but with something better, acceptance. You remembered I like it black. I remember more than you think. She looked away, but this time, not to escape, only to breathe. Later that day, a car rolled up the winding driveway. Jessica watched as Ethan stepped outside to meet the visitor, Joseph Sheng. The elder Sheng wore a crisp linen suit and the quiet authority of someone used to being obeyed. You've been gone 4 days, Joseph said flatly. The board is agitated. They'll wait, Ethan replied. Joseph eyed the hilltop house. And this? This is where you disappear to. Ethan didn't answer. You were supposed to keep her quiet. Instead, you let her in. Ethan's voice was even. I didn't let her in. She walked in on her own. I just didn't lock the door this time. Jessica didn't mean to overhear, but she did. Every word of it. She didn't interrupt. Just went inside and picked up her sketchpad, hands trembling slightly. This fight, this war between image, power, and legacy, was never meant to be hers. And yet, she was in it. Because love doesn't always wait for clean hands and calm histories. Sometimes it finds you in the dirt and dares you to plant something anyway. That night, Ethan sat beside her by the fireplace. His suit jacket was gone. His tie never made the trip. You don't have to stay, he said quietly. Jessica looked at the fire, then at him. But you want me to? He nodded. Not because of the company. Not because of her. No, he said. Because of you. Because of us. Because I like who I am here. With you. She was quiet for a long moment. Then maybe stop waiting for me to fix you, and let me stay while you find your own way. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the old key to the Boiry house. Laid it gently in her palm. No locks, he said. Not anymore. She looked at the key. Looked at him. And then leaned into his shoulder. You don't have to say the words yet, she whispered. Just keep showing up. I can do that, he said. And for once, the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full. That morning, Jessica awoke to the scent of burning paper. She followed it to the living room, where Ethan stood at the hearth, feeding old envelopes, Lily's letters, into the flames one by one. He didn't speak. She didn't stop him. He paused at the last one. Looked at her. Do I have your permission to let go of her? Jessica met his eyes. Yes, she said. But do it for you. Not for me. He dropped the final letter into the fire. And something in him, finally, let go too. Later that week, they returned to the city. No red carpets. No press release. Just their car pulling into the familiar circular drive of the mansion. Ethan stood at the threshold, looking at the heavy front doors like they belonged to a house he used to live in. Jessica touched his hand. We write our version now. He opened the door. Not as a husband bound by duty. But as a man returning with someone, not to someone. Jessica found her waiting in the conservatory, Lorraine. Elegant. Cold. Controlled. You've changed him, Lorraine said. I didn't come to change him. No, Lorraine replied. You came to replace her. Jessica didn't flinch. I didn't come to be her, she said. I came to be seen. Lorraine stepped closer. Do you honestly think this ends with your name on the will, on the boardroom chair? Jessica smiled, soft, confident. No. But it starts with it on the door. She walked away, heels quiet and unafraid. Jessica opened her first solo exhibition at a private Abuja gallery weeks later. No press. Just art. And one quiet piece at the center, a sketch of a hill, a man walking toward a woman on the steps of a house with no locks. Ethan stood behind her, looking at it. You drew us. She nodded. In my own name. It was the first time she signed a piece as Jessica Sheng. That evening, back at the mansion, she found an envelope on her pillow. Inside, a folded note and a single key. Meet me at the place where you first let me in. No name. No title. Just yours, if you stay. She smiled. She didn't pack a bag. Just picked up the key, and walked out into the night. Jessica arrived just after sunset. The air at Boiry was crisp, the sky streaked in deep orange and violet. She walked up the gravel path, no suitcase in hand. Just the key Ethan had left her. The house was already warm when she stepped inside. A fire crackled. The lights were low. And he was there, no suit, no armor, just Ethan. Waiting. Not pleading. Just, hoping. They didn't say much that night. They cooked together. They ate on the floor beside the fireplace. They listened to old soul music on her phone speaker. No declarations. No grand plans. Just two people folding back into one another, one glance, one laugh, one breath at a time. Healing, like love, was slow, but it was steady. At some point past midnight, Ethan looked at her and whispered. I loved her. But I don't feel haunted anymore. Jessica turned to him. Do you feel free? He nodded. I feel new. She leaned into him. Then let's build something new. He reached out. Not to pull her close, but to take her hand and place it over his heart. I'm yours, he said. Not because I've forgotten the past, but because you're my future. The next morning, they stood on the porch together, coffee in hand. Birdsong filled the air. There were emails to answer. Boardrooms to return to. Real life would be waiting. But for one more hour, they stood in that quiet. No tension. No fear. Only a love that had weathered every storm and chose, again and again, to stay. Before leaving, Jessica tucked one final sketch into the drawer beside their bed. It was simple, 2 hands, interlocked, drawn in charcoal. Beneath it, she'd written. This is not the end of the story. It's just the first time we're writing it together. And for the first time in a long time, they both believed it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more. Thank you.